Now that we've put a whole bunch of articles inside of Joomla, you might want to apply some formatting to them. To start with, all we did was we just copied out a bunch of stuff from Notepad and dropped it all into Joomla, and they're really not formatted and they don't look terribly attractive. So I want to walk you through some things that you can do with Joomla and formatting your articles. So I'm going to go back to the article manager. So content article manager. And you should see a whole bunch of articles here at this point. I think there's about 8 or so that you put in. Those include a bunch of products articles as well as 3 about articles. And let's just start by clicking on the about article, which is the very first one here on the list. And this particular article was divided into 2 parts. There was a mission statement and then there was a company description. And normally what you do in this kind of situation would be to take those words like mission statement and company description, and you might want to mark them up. Perhaps you'd want to set these to be H2s or H3s since there are headings on the page. And so to do that, it's relatively straightforward. I'm just going to highlight the words mission statement, and I'm going to go ahead and set these to be H2s. So I'm going to pick heading 2, and there we go. I've set that to be an H2. But actually, the way this article is set up right now, it's set everything on the page to be H2s, probably because this is divided up by line breaks. So I'm going to go ahead and put in an actual return here and set the second paragraph to be a true paragraph using that same dropdown. Then I'm going to highlight the words here, company description, and set those to be an H2. And so once again, we're all tangled up here, probably with line breaks. How do I know what the HTML looks like? Well, there's this handy button right here called HTML. If I click that, this will show me the HTML that makes up my web page. And you'll see here that I do, in fact, have line breaks, double line breaks dividing up all this stuff. What that means is as I apply H2s or paragraphs, it's applying it to everything that's on the page rather than to specific lines or specific paragraphs of information. And what I need to do is make sure that this is actually divided into separate paragraphs before I go through put in the formatting. You can also see what's going on in the HTML, not just through this little HTML button, which puts things in a pop-up, but you can also turn on and off the editor here by the toggle editor button. And here's what the difference is. This HTML here goes through TinyMCE, which is the editor that's in use here by default on a Joomla website. So this is filtering some of the stuff that you put into the web page. If you use the toggle editor button down here, you're essentially removing the TinyMCE editor from the entire flow of the Joomla website. So you're going right straight into Joomla itself, into the database, rather than filtering anything through an editor first. Sometimes that's an important distinction to make. So let me just go ahead and take out these paragraphs. What I'm going to do is just hit the backspace a couple times and make sure everything is on its own line, just like that. And keep on going here. There's a few more paragraphs to go. And here we go. So now that everything's on its own line, now what I can do is here in the second paragraph under mission statement, I can set this to a paragraph. Here under company description, I want that as an H2, but these other things I want as a regular old paragraph. There we go. So now I've set up this page to have our 2 headings here. And I can say save and close. There's some other things I might want to do. Say on the executives page, I have some executives that are listed here. Maybe I want to adapt those headings in the same kind of way. So I'll let you go ahead and edit this article so that you have some H2s set up for these particular executive names, followed by a paragraph of their bio. And I'm going to hit save and close again. I'll go back and do that offline after I'm done here. Then I'm going to go down to the company structure page. And here, I might want to do something like Kinetico Inc. Administrative Headquarters. And maybe I want to highlight those words. Maybe I want to make them bold or italic or something. So I could go through and I could highlight each one of these items and set them up with italics. So as you see here, there's a whole bunch of stuff on this site, a whole bunch of buttons that you can use, and you can apply it to just about anything here inside of Joomla in your content. Simply highlight and click the button. Works pretty much like Microsoft Word does. So you have bold and italic up here on the top. The underline button I would not use. It is available, but of course, underline on the web typically means a link. So underlined text that's not clickable is very confusing to users. I would recommend you stay away from the underline button. This is strike through if you want to have text on your page with a line through it. You can do some alignment things here, left, center, right, or justified. You have the drop downs that I've showed you before. There aren't any styles here at the moment, but we do have some headings here located under this drop down. You can make bulleted or numbered lists. You can indent things. You can undo things or redo things. Making links, I'll show you in another video, or setting up anchors and so forth. But your number of tools here is fairly limited. It is possible to change the tools that you have available to you, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. If we go ahead and say Save and Close, and I'm going to go to Extensions, Plugin Manager, and the editor that's in use here in Joomla, this little editing window called TinyMCE, is a plugin. It's a little application that's running inside of Joomla that it gives us all these funky buttons for formatting text, which are really great, particularly for clients. If you scroll on down here in the plugins to the editor, TinyMCE, and click this, these give us some configuration options for TinyMCE. Switch here over to the basic options, and it will give you some options for functionality and how this should look. So right now we have this set to advanced. What I'd like for you to do is set this to extended. And what extended will do is give you a whole bunch of buttons. So if we go ahead and say Save and Close, and we go back to our article manager, and we click on some article again, you now see that we have an extended array of buttons, lots and lots of different things that we can do here, including adding tables and formatting things, which may be very helpful depending on your kind of website. Also, some silly things. We can put smileys into our text now. Woohoo! Or we could add things like embedded media and that kind of thing, which is here as well. Most importantly, we have a button for pasting from Microsoft Word. So if I had a Word document and I'd copied text out of it, if you paste it directly into Joomla, what you'll wind up having is some horrible, awful, terrible markup. It's very, very tangled up, and it goes on forever and ever and ever. So you should never paste from Word directly because you'll just get a total mess for your website. But if you click on the Paste from Word button first and paste here into this window, using Control or Command V to paste into this window, this will clean up all of that nasty word formatting and insert the information into your Joomla document without all of the verbose markup that makes such a mess in any content management system. This is not a problem unique to Joomla by any stretch. So that is a very important button and might be a reason that you would want to do this. You might be wondering how you can control these buttons because, hey, maybe as much as you love those smileys, you'd really like to turn them off. So let me show you how to do that real quick. I'm going to hit Save and Close to get out of my About article. And if I go back to Extensions, Plugin Manager, and I go back to TinyMCE, under Advanced Parameters, now that I've picked Extended, I do have the option here of turning some of that functionality on and off. This only works in the extended mode, so I could hide or show the fonts and their availability or the paste buttons and so forth. And I can just scroll on down here. So smileys, I do not want smileys, so I can hide those by clicking the Hide button here and say Save and Close. And now when I go back to Content, Article Manager, I go back to my article, there will be no more smileys up here in my list of tools. I would recommend that you go through and take out any of these buttons that you don't want your clients using. That would be a wonderful, wonderful thing to do. The formatting that you do inside of the plugin for TinyMCE will apply these buttons to any person who's editing the website. So everybody has the same set of buttons. If you use one of Joomla's editor plugins like JCE or some of the other editors, you may have the option, depending on the editor, of configuring sets of buttons depending on what group the user falls into. So that might be something that's of value to you if you want to have a whole bunch of buttons available to you, but you want your client to have a smaller subset of buttons. So that might be something to consider when working with these editors inside of Joomla. All right, so I'm going to go through and do some more formatting of these articles, and I will catch you in the next video.